So Shams for The Athletic is reporting there's a chance that Philadelphia and Brooklyn will pursue a deal that would send James Harden to Philadelphia in return for Ben Simmons. Now, Ben Simmons has not played this year. He's sat out. He's basically said he's not going to play for Philadelphia again. And I'd be hard-pressed to think that anything would change that, especially considering what the reaction of the fans might be if he ever suited up for Philadelphia again, especially at home in Philadelphia. It would not be a pleasant sight. So I don't think Ben's going to play for them again. It's obvious at this point they want to trade him. They said they don't want to trade him unless they're going to get some guy of equal value, equal or greater value in return. So basically another star player. And James Harden would offer them that. Certainly not in his prime at this point in his career. But he's still only, 32 years old or so. He's averaging a triple-double for the third time in his career. Missed a couple games so far. And with Brooklyn trying to push this deal out, Brooklyn is listing Harden as out for tonight's game versus Utah. Whether that's because of the trade or just actually because he's injured or maybe just doesn't want to play in this game, who knows. But Nets as a team, this has certainly not gone the way they wanted to this year. They have lost 6 games in a row. They gave up a massive comeback to the Kings most recently and lost that game 112 to 101. With KD being hurt, Kyrie Irving not being able to play home games, it's just been a total mess. And Durant's played 36 games this year, averaging 29.3 points per game, still one of probably the 5 best players in the world. But again, not playing the full slate of games. I think they played 51 so far, and he's played 36 of them. So he's missed a significant portion of their season so far. Harden's played 44 games, and Kyrie Irving has played 10. So, not an ideal situation for Brooklyn. Definitely not what they thought they were signing up for when they got all of these guys together. And it's been a massive disappointment so far, considering you haven't been able to get all 3 of them on the court at one time. And it seems like you might never really get them on the court together with the way this is playing out if the Nets are able to come to a deal with the 76ers ahead of this coming Thursday's trade deadline, which is, I think, February 10th. So what would a deal like this look like? It's tough to say because it depends on what you value James Harden as an asset and what Philadelphia views Ben Simmons as. Philadelphia still views Ben Simmons as the Ben Simmons of 2019, 2020, something like that. It's a guy who's a young player, who's been an All-NBA player because he was an All-NBA player. He was an All-NBA defensive player, a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, an All-Star, all of these things. And on top of that, a 6'10" point guard. So there's a lot to view Ben Simmons in a positive light, and Philadelphia has chosen so far to take that rosier view of him being this star player, this young star player you can develop and build around. When in reality, he's been a guy who has not really developed much since coming to the NBA. Has not really shown willingness to take outside shots. Has not been able to space the floor. That infamous playoff run against Atlanta, Philadelphia what were they supposed to do? Ben Simmons was scared to shoot to some extent, not looking to shoot. He passed up a layup right under the basket at one point, which he probably could have dunked home, honestly, because he is so physically gifted. He's a tremendous athlete and a tremendous basketball player. But he doesn't space the floor. At times, he gets a little bit rattled on the court. And like I said, on offense, there's easy ways to shut him down if you're really focused on it. And it can really make it close to being 4-on-5 for most of the time. And that kind of is what pushed Philadelphia to say things like Doc Rivers not committing to Ben Simmons as the point guard going forward and saying that he can win a championship with Ben as the point guard, which probably, made Ben not feel so great, which I think Ben listed that as one of his grievances against the 76ers in this whole process. And then said he didn't really communicate with them in the offseason. He wasn't training with them, wasn't working on his game with them. They said they were planning on to, because that was Doc Rivers' plan, was to get him in the gym, work on his threes, work and stuff like that, and it never happened. So what is Ben Simmons? You got to determine his true value in this whole situation. And what is James Harden? James Harden is 32 years old, one of the 5 greatest shooting guards of all time, former MVP, averaging a double-double for a third consecutive year, 22.5 points per game, 10.2 assists per game, 8 rebounds per game on 37 minutes per night. So a pretty decent stat line. 3-point percentage is down to 33.2%. Field goal percentage as a whole is down 41.4%. And he's looked a little bit at times like the way he looked towards the end of the time in Houston, where he just was not fully engaged to some extent. And I hate saying that because, I'm an outsider. I obviously don't know the full situation, but there have been times where he has not looked that engaged. I mean, he scored 4 points in that loss to Sacramento. He scored 4 points, 2-11 shooting. That's 18.2%. Did not hit a three-pointer. Had 12 assists and 7 rebounds, but only 4 points. And it's just that time when, eventually, I think Brooklyn's just ready to throw their hands up a little bit. With Kyrie not being able to play home games. KD, who I think they knew after the Achilles injury would never be playing a massive number of games again in a single year, but Kevin Durant not being healthy enough to really go out there and actually have the big three assemble. And top of that, it really makes it difficult because Irving's only played 10 games this year and can't play at home. And then Harden, at this point in his career, the role he's been asked to play on this team after leaving Houston, and now with everything kind of falling apart, I don't really know what these guys are worth. I'll be honest. I can't really tell you and sit here and say the exact players the 76ers need to trade to get James Harden from Brooklyn is so and so and so. I can't tell you that. I would assume, well, first off, it has to be Ben Simmons, obviously. And after that, I would assume there will be some role players traded. I know for a fact because I have a bunch of friends who are Philadelphia fans. They don't want to trade Maxey. They don't want to trade Thibault. And they obviously aren't trading Joel. They want to list those three guys as off the market, like not being able to trade those guys. I don't know if this works if you don't trade Maxey or Thibault. I think Maxey probably, most likely. Seth Curry will probably be dealt in here as well. 3-point shooting is Joe Harris has to go. I remember seeing a note the other day. Joe Harris has to go undergo another surgery. So you're probably going to lose one of your outside scorers. Seth Curry will probably be that guy to go, which is a shame because he's been really good for Philadelphia. But if it makes this deal work, then Seth Curry's going to go. Who else? I mean, they're probably going to shoot for Maxey. I mean, if they would be kind of dumb not to ask for Maxey in return, along with Ben Simmons, because, I mean, you got aim high. You're supposed to aim high. You're supposed to negotiate with these deals. So I expect Brooklyn to ask for Maxey or ask about Maxey. At the very least, it's going to take Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and probably a couple draft picks. I'm not saying a couple of ones, but you're going to have to give up draft picks in this process. And it's going to be Brooklyn sending the smaller amount of assets to Philadelphia for a larger amount in return. What I mean by that, it's not necessarily more value, but more pieces. Brooklyn sends James Harden to get 2 players and 3 draft picks back or something like that. That's likely what we're looking at for this deal. If it's able to get done at all, because again, there's so much just speculate about in regards to Ben Simmons and how ready is he to play. And he has not suited up this year. And James Harden, his motivation and all kind of stuff. There's so much to speculate about. And we don't really know the true value of these pieces in this deal. And I'm sure Brooklyn will value James Harden differently than Philadelphia will. And Philadelphia will value Ben Simmons differently than Brooklyn will. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth. And we'll just see if these teams can get this deal done ahead of Thursday deadline.